welcome to this afternoon's webinar on Ker Downey Botswana. I'm joined by the lovely Fran Hird, the Managing Director of KDB, who'll be taking us through their camps today. Just a bit of housekeeping. As always, the webinar is recorded and we'll be sending it out and follow up after the webinar, and also will be uploaded to our YouTube channel as well. Any questions, please pop them in the question and answer box. If you can avoid the chat box, that would be great. And we will get those answered at the end of the session. We're really excited today because the Small Marketing team is heading down to Botswana in a couple of weeks' time. So we're actually getting to finally travel to see the product. So yeah, super excited for that. But Fran, I'll pass over to you and you can take it away.
Thanks so much, Alice, and good day everyone that's tuning in. Thank you so much for your time. I hope that you are super busy right now. I hope that bookings are starting to open up wherever you are in the world. We've had some positive news in the last few weeks and we're feeling it here in Botswana. We're seeing more bookings coming in and more people traveling. So there's definitely an air of positivity. So it's brilliant to be with you this afternoon to run through the camps and share information on our properties and safaris, and I hope you enjoy. And as Alice mentioned, feel free to chat in the chat box, but if there's any questions for me, we'll do a Q&A at the end, and anything that we don't get round to today, if we go over a bit of time, then we'll always get back to you on email as well. So this is the itinerary for this afternoon. I'm going to run through the situation here on the ground in Botswana at the moment, and how things are going here, and particularly Ker Downey staff and where we're at, the country, how you can travel. And then I'll go through the product, I'll go through the camps, we can talk about that, and then saving Q&A for last. So just touching on what's happening right now in Botswana, we are open. We've been receiving guests for, I reckon it must be about a year now. So all the health and safety requirements, the wearing of masks, the sanitizing, the cleaning, the social distancing, all of that is now second nature in the camps. All the staff are really comfortable with it. We're actually starting to kind of relax on some of the regulations. So we're actually, next week, we're back to our communal dining if guests want to do that, hosted by the managers and the guides. So it's starting to feel a bit more normal in the camps, which is so nice after such a long time. In terms of getting to Botswana, you need a negative PCR test prior to arrival. So it must be valid, it must have 72 hours on it when you board your flight into Botswana. And then you do another PCR test before you leave the country. You may also do a rapid test on arrival. It is kind of sporadic. I would plan for it. It doesn't cost anything, doesn't really take much time. It's about 10 minutes when you arrive at the airport or land border if you're self-driving, that the government is doing rapid tests on arrival. After that, you're free to travel. We don't have any restrictions. So we no longer have a curfew. We no longer have an alcohol ban. It's all back and open. We are now out of our state of emergency. So really the only difference that you're going to see now when you're in the camps compared to pre-COVID is we are still wearing the masks. And I was actually just listening to the UK news before I did this webinar, and they're talking about mask use in the UK and potentially might be coming back there. So we are still using masks in Botswana, and we are offering social distancing and cleaning. Otherwise, everything is back to normal in terms of service and your safari when you're out here. All of our staff have been vaccinated. So we had a great campaign where we flew nurses around all of our properties. We were lucky enough to reserve Johnson & Johnson for the safari teams. So that means just the one vaccination. Obviously, logistically, that really helps with people being out in the remote places. So all of our staff members that are eligible have been vaccinated. There's a few of us that are just waiting for our second shot, but we're doing that in the next week or so. So that was a great achievement, and it actually happened really quick. For those of you that might have heard me talking about Botswana a couple of months ago, you would say that we were a bit slow. Now we've fully caught up, and I think my prediction was that we'd all be fully vaccinated by the end of October. So we've already crossed that finish line, which is really awesome. And all the camps are open and we've got guests going through them. We've got a really nice mix. We've got some SADC guests, so South Africans coming up, but then otherwise Germans, French, Americans. We're starting to see the UK guys returning now. So really, really great to be having full camps again, and all the staff are back in the camps. We did keep all of our employees right the way through COVID. We didn't lay anybody off, nobody lost their jobs. We also kept them with salaries going right the way through. So you can go and see some of the familiar faces when you're heading back to the camps. So that's just a little bit about the current situation here in Botswana at the moment. And Alice will be experiencing it firsthand in a couple of weeks when she heads out here. Then in terms of our booking terms and conditions, this is often, one of the first questions asked when people are coming back to booking post-COVID. What will happen if their guests get COVID before they travel? What will happen if there's restrictions put in place by the various source markets? So we've got this policy in place, and this policy is going to be around as long as COVID's around. I imagine that there might be little flare-ups in places, and we have to be deferring or cancelling due to COVID again. So you can book with the confidence knowing that that booking is safe. And we always recommend that people have full insurance when they're traveling. So if it is something else un-COVID related, then the normal cancellation policy will be kicking in. Then going on to Ker Downey and our camps and safaris. So for those of you that are new to us, we're a 5-star brand. We've been operating in Botswana for over 50 years, so really well-established brand. We're locally owned and run. So the whole team sits here in Botswana, and we own and operate our own camps. So the head office where I am is in Naun, and then we have the properties, most of the staff out in the camps, spread between the Delta, the Murami Game Reserve, and then also down in the Central Kalahari. So our properties are in ideal locations to be able to offer a circuit, combinations. We have packages. I'll go into a little bit about that in a moment's time. But just to give you an idea of the areas that we operate in. Where we position ourselves in terms of what's on offer in Botswana, there's lots of beautiful 4-star, 5-star properties and brands, and you really can't go wrong when you come into Botswana. It's such an incredible destination. But where we differentiate ourselves is we really want to offer a great value for money 5-star option. So we're in amazing wildlife areas. We have incredible service. Our staff are really good, really high level of service, high standard of service, and a lot of attention to detail. We also have smaller properties. So our biggest properties take 16 people maximum. Our smallest property takes 6 people maximum. So you've got that intimacy through the different camps. So just a little bit more on the overview. So we've got Kanana and Shindi, which are both private concessions in the Okavango Delta. We have Akuti, bottom middle, which is in the Murami Game Reserve in the Kanana area. Then we have Dinaka, which is down in the Central Kalahari, also in our own exclusive area. So it's a private conservancy. It's land that we own and operate on. It's the only property in the area. And then we have our little adventure camp, which is called Footsteps. And from Footsteps, we do 2 different safaris. We do Footsteps across the Delta, which is the walking safari. Then we also do Young Explorers, which is our specialist family safari. I put these overviews in for you. It's quite a lot of information, but just to kind of give you a broad overview of the different camps and what makes them different. I will go through each of them individually, but just touching on the private concessions, Shindi and Kanana, they are both land and water-based properties. So this means we're able to offer the full range of activities, both on water and on land, and right the way through the year. All of our properties have a family tent. In fact, Akuti has 2 family tents. Shindi Enclave is the little camp within a camp that you can book out on a private exclusive basis. It accommodates up to 6 people. Then Akuti, as I mentioned, is in the Murami Game Reserve. It's a smaller camp than Shindi and Kanana. We've actually only got 7 rooms there. And it's world renowned for its wildlife, the Murami Game Reserve. And then we have Dinaka that's down in the Central Kalahari. All the properties apart from Kanana are also wheelchair accessible. And then the Footsteps camp, where we've got the 2 different safaris, one for the families, one for walking. It's more kind of barefoot luxury for guests. They're a bit more adventurous, a bit more active, energetic. It's an incredible experience in a really beautiful location. Then going on to our rates, and it's quite unorthodox to jump straight into rates, but it is one of our unique selling points, is our price point. We've kept the rates the same for the last 3 years, so going into 2022, there's no increases. These are the rack rates for next year. So you can see their peak season per person per night rack rate is just over $1,000 per person per night. Green season, so that's January, February, March, and December. Also bear in mind, we don't have a surcharge over Christmas and New Year. Incredible value for money in the green season. For those of you that have traveled to Botswana at different times of year, you'll know that you really can be selling it any time of year. Although it's 50% the rate, it's certainly more than 50% the experience when you travel in green season. And then onto our packages. So these are essentially a long stay rate. So as we go through the camps and you start formulating itineraries in your mind, most itineraries will fit into one of these packages. They include all of the flying, they include your departure tax. Basically, you just need to get guests to Botswana, and then we take care of them the rest of the way. As you can see, they're valid right the way through the year. And part of all of these packages is a contribution to Banabaletsatsi. So Banabaletsatsi is a children's centre based here in Maun. It's our biggest project that we support. We're actually the biggest funders for the centre and for the children. We've been involved with them for years now. They're really close to our heart. A percentage of every single package that we sell goes directly to them. And it's there for their overheads, so their counsellors' salaries, their water bill, their food bill, any kind of emergency medical attention that the children need. That fund is there, so it really does keep them afloat from month to month. And it's not just a monetary contribution that we offer. We're also really hands-on, so we do a bush club with the kids, where our guides go and they host an afternoon with the kids, and it's all about wildlife and conservation. And we also hold an annual safari. So last year we had to skip it, unfortunately, due to COVID, but this year we were back on track, and we took, I think in the end it was about 40 of the children from the centre down to Danaka for a 2-night trip. So they could put all the skills that they'd learnt in the bush club into practice down out in the wilderness area. So also, if your guests are interested in how they can give back when they come out on safari, we can take any supplies that guests want to bring. We can also put you in contact with Banabaletsatsi if there's any monetary donations that guests want to make as well. Then looking at another element that's really unique to Ker Downey Botswana, and this is across all of our properties, we guarantee maximum 4 people on a vehicle. We guarantee window seats. So these vehicles that you see here, they're the same. We have the same fleet across all the properties. You can see there's 2 rows of seats, 3 seats in each row, and then each window seat actually has a camera mount. So that middle image there, you can see the kind of padded armrest that can actually move up and down. So if you've got a big lens or you wanted to take a video, you can keep still by using the camera mount. Really, really useful. And the vehicles are really customizable, so we can take the roofs off. We can also take bigger groups. So if it's a family of 5, 6, or even 7, they can still all go on that vehicle together. So that's something that's quite unique. It sounds almost a bit trivial talking about the vehicle, but you spend so much time on the vehicles. It's really important that they're comfortable. And also by being able to offer a maximum of 4, it really makes your safari tailored to you. So it's up to the guest what they want to do when they want to do it. With us, there's no such thing as the game drive vehicles leaving at 6 in the morning. If you're not there and ready, then you miss your morning activity. It's all about flexibility. Then going on to the properties themselves. So I'm going to start with Shindi. And Shindi, we actually rebuilt last year, right the way through COVID. I spent 5 months on the ground in a building site whilst we rebuilt it. It's looking beautiful. Everything's new, so from the solar to the front of house, the main area, all the guest accommodation. We did a lot in the staff village as well, so it was a huge, big project, and we successfully completed it despite all the lockdowns. So with the rebuild, we really wanted to pay homage to the former camp. We're very proud of our heritage, we're very proud of our history, particularly with Shindi. It's one of the oldest camps in the Okavango Delta. So when we rebuilt the camp, we really wanted to make more of these views. So this is the view from the main area, whether you're sat in the lounge, in the dining, we've got two dining areas, actually. We've got an indoor dining and an outdoor dining. Wherever you're sat, you have these incredible views over the water. In terms of what you can do in the area, at the beginning I mentioned that it's a private concession that offers land and water-based activities. So you can be doing game drives, we do night drives, and we actually do proper night drives where you head out after dinner. You can also do walking safaris. And then out on the water, we do fishing, boating, and the traditional mode of transport. You can go out on the Mokoros. So this water is permanent. It does fluctuate slightly with the water levels rising and dropping with the flood, but it is there permanently. So even if you're selling 2023, 2024, we've been operating for decades in the area. We know what the water levels are like. It's really, really reliable. And then these are the different dining areas. We do dinner out under the stars. We'd like to mix up the dining experience. So lots of bush lunches, bush dinners. We can also do private dinners for anniversaries, birthdays, any kind of special occasion. Let us know and we will help the guests celebrate when they're in camp with us. And of course, the pool, perfect for this time of year. It's October at the moment. It's the hottest time of year. So midday dip is always amazing. And then onto the tents. So it's 100% solar powered. You've got all your creature comforts. We can do double or twin. And it is that classic canvas feel when you're there. All of them are en suite. We actually have a family room as well. So that's a new addition to Shindi. Previously, we didn't have a family room. But with the family room, so here we are in the children's room. It consists of 2 bedrooms. And then you've got the shared ensuite bathroom. We can actually accommodate up to 5 in the family room. So if you've got those bigger family groups, then they can all stay under the same roof together. Equally, if they want to spread out and use twin or double rooms, it's entirely up to the guests. It's their choice when they're booking in terms of their room configuration. We take children from the age of 7 at Shindi. That's actually our minimum age across the board. The only exception is with the walking safari at Footsteps. And then beautiful indoor and outdoor showers. So that was an overview of Shindi. Just some key takeaway points is private concession, incredible wildlife. I didn't really talk much about it, but if you follow any of our social media, you'll just see all of the leopard sightings, wild dog, lion, cheetah. It really is in the heart of the Delta, and the game viewing is incredible. Then going on to Shindi Enclave. So this is the little camp within a camp that you can book out for private exclusive basis. And I think post-COVID travel is all about exclusivity, and it's about quality time spent with those loved ones, whether it's family members or friends. And with this, it's ideal. So you have your own little dining area, lounge area. You can do all of your meals from here. It's basically your own mini main area that you can go back to in between your activities. You have your own private guide, private vehicle, fire deck, so you can spend the evenings around the campfire. So we can accommodate up to 6 at Shindi Enclave, and we have flexibility in terms of rooming. So whether it's couples, friends, family, and they want to use the family tent, it's all possible. It's also great to run a Young Explorers family safari from Shindi Enclave. So if you've got guests that really want that family element, and I'll go into Young Explorers for those of you that it's new to, but they don't want the rusticness of that camp. They want to be in a 5-star camp. Maybe it's granny, she's not up for a bucket shower. So Shindi Enclave is really ideal to run the family safari from, and you get the family guide there with you. Because you've got your own space, you can do all of the activities there as well. Then moving on to Footsteps. So Shindi and Footsteps are actually in the same private concession, but they have different areas that they operate from. The only time Shindi guests and Footsteps guests might see each other is at the private airstrip that they share. But after you've landed and you've met up with your guide, you then head off to the Shindi area, and then you actually physically cross the channel, and then that is an exclusive area to the Footsteps camp, and that's where you will carry out all your activities. So we have two options from the Footsteps camp. We either have a walking safari or we have young explorers. With young explorers, you get exclusive use of camp. So we're blocking off the whole camp for you. What this means is we're not mixing walking guests and family guests at the same time. It's either or. And this is the camp, very much kind of kick off your shoes, get your toes in the sand. It's really comfortable. It's more simple than the 5-star camps. And it's kind of got that explorer feel to it. It's a semi-permanent camp. So we actually, at the end of November, pack it all away for 3 months, and then we open it back up in March for the season. It's in a really beautiful location. It's in this riverine woodland area overlooking a permanent hippo pool. And then these are the tents. So proper beds, proper linen. We can do twin or double. You've got your ensuite bathroom, porcelain flushing toilet, hot water bush shower. In the morning, you get your tea or coffee delivered with your wake-up call. You've got lights for in the evening. So really, really comfortable. And with the walking safari, you are hosted by a specialist walking guide. So he's there with you for your 3 or more nights, and he will take you out on all of your activities. And it's really tailor-made to the guests in camp at that time. So there's no minimum fitness requirement. It's really, we'll take it at your pace, and we can do different lengths of walks, different intensities. So some days you might head out and cover a big distance. Other days you'll be into so much detail. You'll turn around and you'll hardly have covered any distance, but you've gone through so many things. There's so much to learn about in the Delta, whether it's the wildlife behavior or tracking animals or learning about the termite mounds or the plants or the trees. It's really an immersive experience out on a walking safari. We also have a vehicle there, so we can do game drives, we can do night drives, we can also fish and Mokoro. So yes, the focus is on walking, but we do have those other activities on offer as well. Then with the family safari, so the minimum age is 7, and it's really tailored to the different ages and interests of kids. And we've had all sorts, from 7 and 8-year-olds to teenagers. We've even had a family, a father came out with his 4 boys, and they were all in their 20s, and they had an incredible time. It's so interactive, it's so engaging, so much fun. The guides are really awesome. And they, the trick to a good family safari is to make it interactive. So kids don't want to be sat on a game drive vehicle, sitting still, being quiet on their best behavior. They want to be involved, whether it's learning how to track the wildlife, whether it's fetching feathers to make bows and arrows, riding up front with a guide, answering the radio, being co-driver, going out and learning how to pole the Mokoro yourself. There's just so many things to do. The bush is just the best playground. And then we have the family tent, so everybody can be under the same roof, or they can spread out and use the other 2 tents that are available in camp. So that was the Footsteps camp. Key takeaways is 2 different types of safari from the one camp. Still 5-star guiding, incredible food, incredible service. It's a more rustic camp, more rustic facilities. Then moving across to Kanana. So Kanana is the other side of the Delta. So there's kind of northern side of the Delta, and there's a more southern side of the Delta, and the topography is quite different. The ecosystems that are in and around the areas are quite different. So our properties you can really put into an itinerary. They're all of the same level. They've all got great wildlife. They're all offering something different. You'll see, even with the style, decor, and character of each camp is quite different. So you can mix and match however you want to. Really is down to personal preference. So the location of Kanana is overlooking a seasonal floodplain. So when the floods arrive, and remember in Botswana, it's not a natural disaster, it's an annual occurrence and actually quite a time for celebration when the flood arrives. So when the flood arrives at Kanana, it actually comes right up in front of camp and the boats pull off from the main area. When the floodwaters start to retract back in, it exposes a really lush green floodplain area, which attracts a lot of plains game. So that means you don't even have to leave your tent to do your game viewing, but also it attracts predators. So it's quite a common occurrence to see lion in front of camp or wild dog hunting. Property is also 100% solar, so we are really committed to reducing our carbon footprint. So Shindi, Kanana, Footsteps are all 100% solar, and we're working on Danaka and Akuti, so partly solar, but can't say 100% yet. So in terms of activities, we do all the traditional activities, both your land and water-based, and right the way through the year. But a couple of things, and I'm just going to highlight them, that are on offer at Kanana that you can't really do anywhere else. And one of them is the Heronry. So this is a rookery. It's a site where thousands of birds come. It's peak of activity now in October. They come to build their nests, raise their young. We get out there either by boat or Mokoro to the area, and you can get really quite close to the birds. You get amazing photographs. The sights, the sounds, even the smell, yeah, they're pretty stinky. It's all, you know, overpowers your senses. It's an incredible experience, and often people think, oh, I'm not a keen birder, this is not exactly up my alley. I can assure you, when guests go there, they are converted. They absolutely love it. Keen birders, they will spend half the time out at the Heronry. We can go there anytime, only we can access it. So really a great experience from Kanana. And if you are a keen birder, chances of seeing pearls fishing out are really high. At the moment, we've actually got 2 pairs that we know where they are and they're nesting. But yeah, you get great sightings of that, and it's a birder's paradise. Then we also have a Sleepout Deck. So if you want to go spend the night out under the stars, you can book the Sleepout Deck. Really great experience. It's remote, so it's about 20 minutes away from camp. And how it works is you'll have dinner in camp, you'll head out after dinner on a night drive with your guide. You'll come across the platform all lit up with the lanterns. You can spend the night out there, even in the middle of winter, super warm. We'll send you off with lots of hot water bottles, nice and snuggly. And then in the morning, you'll get woken up with tea, coffee, whatever you like for your morning beverage, and then you head back to camp for breakfast. We don't leave guests entirely on their own out there. As I say, it is 20 minutes away from camp by driving, so quite far. So the guide has his own little dome tent, comfortable distance away. You've got the radios. If you need him at all, you can just radio him. He's there in a moment's notice. And we also keep your tent made up for you back in camp. If you want to book this, just let the reservations team know. It's actually on our online availability. So if you want to build an itinerary around the Sleepout Deck, you can. It is pretty popular. You just need to book 3 or more nights at Kanana. Then you can book the Sleepout Deck, no extra charge. So it's a really great value add. So just in conclusion on Kanana, we've got the Sleepout Deck, we've got the Heronry, but on top of that, we've got all the amazing activities that you can do in the Delta, incredible wildlife. We refurbished the camp beginning of 2019, almost forgot what year it was then. Beginning of 2019, we refurbished the camps. It's all looking nice and new. Then going across to Akuti, which is in the Murami Game Reserve. And I'm just going to leave it on the map for a moment, just to explain the Murami Game Reserve. So it's one of the biggest parks in Botswana. It actually has the highest level of protection, being a reserve. So this means that there's no off-roading, you can't do walking, things like that, because it is such a really wildlife intense area. It's the epicenter of the wildlife experience. That's why it has this highest level of protection. And it's really diverse, and it covers a huge big area. So Akuti is located in Kakanika. So some of the well-known places within the Murami Game Reserve would be Kwai, and then the other one is Kakanika. In Kakanika, there's just the 3 properties. So there's 2 desert and delta safaris properties, and then there's Akuti. And we are really ideally located. So it's right on the edge of the Monachira Channel. So whether you're in the main area or in your room, you've got the river right in front of you. So you've got that element of water right the way through camp. In terms of activities, we do game drives. Huge area, really diverse, really picturesque. If guests are staying a bit longer, maybe 3 or 4 nights, we'll really encourage them to go and do a full day trip. We'll send them off with a picnic lunch and they can explore further afield. It's incredible and diverse. So you can be out at Dead Tree Island, which is super eerie with all the dead trees in silhouette, really photographic. Or you can go to hippo pools, or there's open grassland areas, all in one game drive. You will have seen those different environments. And then we also do boat excursions from Akuti. And I personally think one of my favorite boat excursions is from Akuti, going out to the Kakanika Lagoon. I personally always recommend you go in the afternoon. I just love to go there for sundowners. You stop off at the lagoon, you can watch the sunset, the colors across the water, birds flying in overhead, drinking a gin and tonic or a glass of wine. It's just an incredible experience. And you often see guests just sat there having a quiet moment, just absorbing where in the world they are and how special it is. The camp itself is all up on raised wooden walkways. And then we have these huge, big, spacious rooms, indoor and outdoor showers. And then we've got the family rooms here as well. I think some of the biggest rooms in the Delta. So this is Akuti, really unique style and architecture, really strong, great activities, great wildlife, and a different style of camp. Then last but not least, going down to Danaka, which is down in the central Kalahari. Just to talk a little bit about logistics. So we have Safari Air, which is our charter company, and they provide all of our flying for us. You can book flights with us. And they can get guests in and around the different camps, either from Maun or Kasane. In terms of flying down to Danaka, so from Maun, it's a 30-minute flight to Danaka. We also do direct flights from the Delta down to Danaka. So it's about 45, 50 minutes from Shindi down to Danaka, depending on which aircraft you use. We also have our own private airstrip down at Danaka. The 2 properties that are accessible by self-drive, not a huge market for us, but sometimes agents self-drive, or sometimes we have guests that's what they're doing, combining with Namibia. You can self-drive to Danaka and Akuti. It's really quite easy. In fact, I'm driving myself to Danaka tomorrow. It'll take me about 3.5 hours to get down there. It's a pretty easy drive. It's located on the northern boundary of the Central Kalahari Game Reserve. So we're not in the Central Kalahari Game Reserve. The pros of that is, because it's our own private land, we can do things like off-roading and night driving and walking, and we don't have those restrictions. So the camp itself is located around a permanent waterhole. It's really active. If you follow our social media, you might have seen some of the photos that the camp managers have been sending when the wildlife comes down there. You literally don't have to leave the main area. You can, over a siesta time, sit in the main area with a glass of wine and the wildlife comes to you, or from your tent in the morning when you wake up and you're drinking your first coffee of the day. Wildlife will be coming in and around camp. Again, love to mix up the dining experience. We've also got an outside dining deck here. Great pool for the hot Kalahari summer months. And then these are the tents. In fact, it's our only thatched property, and that's because of the climate down in the Central Kalahari. It's a more desert kind of climate, so high fluctuations, pretty chilly at night, really hot in the day. So the thatch really helps with that. Also family tent here as well, with interleading room, and then the ensuite bathroom at the back. And as you can see, different style, different feel, very much complements the colors of the Kalahari. And then even the outside showers overlooking that waterhole, but don't worry, you can see the kudu can see you, but nobody else can see you. Then out in the conservancy itself, we have different structures. So this is the lookout deck. We will go and do sundowners from here. Really great vantage point. It's the highest area in the conservancy, which is quite a task to find because Botswana is completely flat. So when you're there and you're elevated up on the lookout deck, you get incredible views. You can almost see the curvature of the earth. Really, really great location to end the day. If you're good at early mornings, you can also head out there for your coffee and see sunrise. Then separate to the lookout deck, we have the Sleepout Deck. Works the same as the one at Kanana, so you just need to book 3 or more nights, and then you can book the Sleepout Deck. Really incredible experience. The night sky is breathtaking. The stars that we get here is incredible. We often have a clear night. I know this photo is when it was pretty cloudy, but often we have really, really clear nights. And a really great experience. We've actually changed the Sleepout Deck slightly, so they're all now, this one and the one at Kanana is on the same level, and then you've got a little bathroom at the back. So you've got a toilet, you've got a wash hand basin, so if nature calls in the middle of the night, it's really just there, really convenient. You don't have to go down at all. And then we have a photographic underground bunker. We've got 7 or 8 permanent water holes, and the wildlife is congregating around these water holes, particularly during the drier months. So at the underground bunker, you're actually going down and then you pop up and you're looking over one of those water holes. It's just a couple of meters in front of you. You've got the tree at the back. You get amazing photos. The bird life, like the clouds of quelea, is amazing. And the interaction between the jackal and the quelea, because the jackal come and they're hunting the quelea, they're trying to pluck them out the sky, the young enthusiastic ones. The others chase them in so that the quelea land in the water, and then the jackal actually swims into the water and plucks them out. But also we've had lion, we've had leopard, we've had giraffe coming down to this water hole, and you get these amazing photos where you're eyeball to eyeball with your subject. So if you're a keen photographer, the underground photographic bunker, and we've actually also got another hide that you can use. You will spend so much of your time there, and we've got facilities there. So there's also a bathroom, and the guide will always take a tea box, drinks box, snacks for you. So you can really spend a lot of time. It's open whenever you want to go. And down in the Kalahari, you're not only seeing a different landscape, but also different species. So things that you don't really get up in the heart of the Delta, like your eland, oryx, springbok, brown hyena, one of my favorite, the bat-eared fox. They're super cute. So you're seeing different things. And you can go out on game drives. We also do night drives where you head out after dark, and we do walking safaris. And then one of the highlight activities is the educational walk with the sand bushmen. So every guest gets the opportunity to go and do this. We typically do it in the morning when it's a little bit cooler. You can avoid the midday sun. You head out on foot with the guides. So the bushmen are the guides. They take you on this activity. They speak English. We're doing it in a bit of a different way to some of the other cultural experiences that you can get in Botswana. So this is done in a really dignified, way. It's not dramatized in any way. We're not pretending that this is how they live. It's a transfer of skills. It's a cultural exchange, and you get to learn all about the medicinal uses of plants, their incredible survival techniques, so how they store water, bird traps, and you can taste things, smell things, have a go at making fire with friction. It's really, really get involved in it, really engaged, and there's incredible information, and there's a wealth of knowledge that you get to learn about, and it's great. Also, encourage guests to ask lots of questions. The guys are awesome. They've got a really good sense of humor. They like drawing on comparisons between a Western culture and their own culture and the differences, and it's I highly recommend it. It's a really great morning out. And amazing wildlife as well. So we've got high population of lion in the area. We do see leopard and cheetah, though less because of the lion population. So just to recap, finally on Danaka, private conservancy, so you've got that exclusivity, you've got the different activity options, you've got the photographic element, and combined with our vehicles, really great. Our guides have also gone through photographic training. So we've had James Gifford, who is a wildlife photographer. He's done, we've done a few years now with photographic training with our guides. Also, if you want to book a private vehicle for keen photographers, also great. Family friendly, wheelchair accessible. You can actually sell Danaka any time of year. So for those of you that know a bit more about Botswana and the seasons, and you can make it quite complicated, but Danaka you can sell right the way through the year, because during the dry season, all the wildlife's congregating around those water sources and you get incredible sightings. And then in the green season, when the Kalahari is traditionally kind of prime time, you've got the bird life, you've got the wildflowers, you know, you've got all the migratory summer migrants coming in terms of bird life. So any time of year you can sell it, combine it with the different properties, put it at the beginning or the end. It works really well. So that is us. I think we're going to hand over to you, Alice. Are you going to read questions out to me, or do you want me to read them? How do you want to work it?
Yeah, I'll read them out, and you fire away and answer them. But we've got a few questions here that I've been looking at. So we've got, first question is, how did Ker Downey manage to keep the rates so much lower than other 5-star properties in Botswana? Okay, Ker Downey compromising on quality, or are other people ripping the clients off?
Well, I think I'm not going to say that we compromise on quality. I'm going to be diplomatic, but truthful. I think it's about the emphasis. And personally, I think the trick to being a really good agent is matching the right guest with the right property. So with us, our focus is amazing guiding, great activities, getting out there, you know, spending a lot of time out in the wilderness areas, having a high level of service, so a lot of attention to detail. You're not going to be coming to us if you want incredibly fine dining, although the food's lovely, but it's not, you know, we're not serving seafood, or we're not bringing in French champagne or things like that. So it depends what your guest is after in terms of price point. And I also think because we've had these properties for a really long time, we're well established and we have great relationships and connections here in Botswana. So as a business, we know that we've got longevity in our business. So therefore, you know, we can kind of keep the rates down. Yeah, hope that answers your question.
Awesome. So from Francis Nauman, we've got the rate sheet says that Footsteps is open from November to February. Can you confirm if it's closed?
So with Footsteps, we open it on the 1st of March, and then it's open through the season, and then it closes at the end of November. So it's closed December, January, February, which is our rainy season.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you. So Malcolm McFadden, we've got a couple of questions. We've got, have you noticed if the east side of the Delta seems to be getting less water than it has in recent years? And if so, do you think this will affect water activities and animal sightings?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I could chat about it for hours. I mean, in the UK, you talk about the weather. Here in Botswana, we talk about the flood levels and the water levels. So to keep it really short, I think yes. I think the dynamics of the Delta are changing. I think that combined with drought years, combined with really good rain and really good floods, has also added to the whole confusion of it all. So yeah, we are seeing some areas that are drier than they would have been previously. In terms of our areas, we are on permanent channels. So the areas that you see the fluctuation is more out in the seasonal floodplain areas, or the seasonal kind of tributaries off the main channels. The Delta's made up of main channels, and actually you can do it like the palm of your hand, where you've got the kind of panhandle, and then you've got the main channels, and then you've got all of the tributaries that come off. Those main tributaries are still really good high water levels. So like Shindi's on a main tributary. So chatting to B and Batoki, they're two of the guys that have been at Shindi for over 30 years. You talk to them about the water levels, and they're like, that hasn't really fluctuated that much. Likewise down at Kanana. But there's definitely areas that are drier. There's definitely areas that are wetter. It's an ever-evolving ecosystem, and it's forever changing. And I think as an agent, it's quite key to talk to the various properties that you're thinking about using and ask them, is your water seasonal? What is it like at the driest time of year? Because some places it does dry up completely and they can't do the water activities at certain times of year. Other places are completely flooded and they're water-based camps. So it's about asking the right questions and trying to piece together an itinerary that ticks all the boxes in terms of the activities, But from a Ker Downey point of view, we are so lucky that Kanana, Shindi, and Akuti always have water right the way through the year.
Amazing. You're getting me even more excited, Fran. I can't. So another one from Malcolm. Are the Danaka pans pumped, and is the concession fenced? If so, how does that impact the guests? A couple of questions there.
Yeah, awesome. So yes, the water holes are pumped during the dry season. So we've got various solar setups that pump the water. We also obviously have to pump the water for the camp as well. So we're pumping it for the water holes. It does have a fence, although none of the game drive routes go near the fence. So guests are not going to see the fence when they're out in the activities. And the fence is really porous. So lion, I've even seen female kudus going through the fence. You know, the lots of things move through the fence.
Awesome, thank you, Fran. So I've got Teresa Belcher has asked, when is the dry season and when is the wet season? That's a great question.
Awesome question. Yeah. Okay. So we're in the middle of the dry season now. We are about to head into our rainy season. So we will start getting the first rains next month, November. So November, December, January, February, March is our green season, our rainy season. March, April, we get a few showers. Then from kind of June onwards, June, July, August, September is October is our dry season. So that's how we work the seasons, wet or dry. Then to add on to that, you've got differences with the flood. So the flood is actually the opposite. A really simple way of explaining it is when we've got water on the ground coming down with the flood, it's dry in the sky. When we've got water in the sky, so when it's rainy season, that's when the flood is actually retracted back.
That's a great explanation. That's awesome. Thank you. And then Francis has just asked if we could get the rate sheet updated with the seasonality of Footsteps camp. So yes, Francis, that's absolutely fine. We can definitely.
Yeah, sure. I'll have a look at that. It must have slipped through the cracks. Sorry.
Can you see in the chat box? Is that
how do you pronounce Kakanika? Okay, so mine is a westernized version of it, and oh gosh, you guys are going to record this if it goes wrong. So locally, the X's are clicks, so it'd be Kakanika. There you go. That's my best.
Oh, well done, you. I'm so glad I left that to you to try and back. There's no way I could pronounce that.
There's a click, but for ease and to internationalize it, it will be referred to as Kakanika.
Thank you very much for that. Great question there, Catherine. Catherine's also asked, I would like to know about a 72-hour requirement, please. I have had many guests travel from the US via Johannesburg to Botswana recently, and 72 hours from arrival has been a point of stress. So they've all managed to do it, but some have had to thread the needle very closely. So I want to know what happens if it expires. Will they then test on arrival? That's obviously a real challenge coming from the US and having to connect through.
Yeah, so it depends kind of the stress tolerance level of your guests. If you can get it within the 72 hours of them boarding their flight from Johannesburg, they will be fine, but I would never recommend you leave it to within a couple of hours because you never know if there might be a delay on that flight. Worst case scenario, if there is delays, if they've completely lapsed out of their 72 hours, what may happen when they get here to Botswana is they may ask them to do a PCR test on arrival. Depending on how quickly we can get those test results turned around would then depend on how they can carry on with their trip. So I would imagine we haven't experienced it yet, and we are, we're pretty busy and we're receiving guests from all around the world, and they do seem to be managing it. Worst case would be they probably overnight in Mound, they get the test results the next morning, and then they carry on with their trip.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for clarifying that, because it is nerve-wracking that. I mean, I'm flying to Kenya on Saturday with my family, and we've got 96 hours, so that's 4 days, 4 hours. But even that it's an added level of anxiety that we hope will not be with us for the too much more future.
Yeah.
Because it's something that another logistical challenge that you I know a lot of agents are saying to us, the bookings that we're having coming through are taking much longer because of you guys having to know all these kind of the admin of the COVID, the kind of logistics, which is very challenging. Catherine also said your clicks were great, so well done.
Thanks, Catherine. But also just to add on to that, I've only heard positive things about the testing in Johannesburg as well. I personally did it, but a long time ago, March, I did a PCR test in Johannesburg and had a really great, smooth experience. I do believe that the turnaround times are quicker now. So with the US, we often have flights arriving into Johannesburg in the evening. So what guests could do is go and test. They're open 24 hours. Go and test when you land off your flight from the US. The next morning, you'll have your test results for you to then board your flight up to Botswana. So if it is going to be a real challenge in terms of flights, it's very doable, and everybody has worked super hard to make sure that there's facilities in place to facilitate travel.
Do you know how much those tests are? I know you did it in March, the price probably changed slightly, but rough. Do you remember roughly how much it cost?
Yeah, I think they're between $50 and $100. Yeah, and I think also the cost varies depending, like with anything, when you get a passport done on Express, it costs 3 times as much as when you do it with the normal service. So I think also it depends how quickly you want that turnaround time to be.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that. Regular has asked, how about Danaka in December? Is a sleep-out deck possible weather-wise?
So really good question. We actually close it December, January, February, because that's our rainy season. And we don't get, like in the UK, I grew up in the UK, you don't get days long of grey, wet, rainy weather here in Botswana. We often get an afternoon thunderstorm, but it actually makes it logistically a nightmare doing the sleep-out deck December, January, February because of those rains. They come in quite dramatically and then they leave as quick. But yeah, so...
Brilliant. I think we don't have any more questions, so I think you probably answered that all, but thank you so much to you all for joining us this evening. And as I mentioned, the presentation has been recorded, so I'll send you a copy of the recording, which you can then refer back to you at your own time. We actually have recordings of all our client webinars on the Small Marketing YouTube channel, so do subscribe to that, because you can then go back and use them as a point of reference. But Fran, thank you so much for joining me this evening. And thank you to you all for joining us this afternoon or this morning or this evening, wherever you are. And next week, our webinar is going to be on the Murami family in South Africa, and we'll be joined by Ritza, who is the sales manager for Murami. So thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to Fran for bringing a little Botswana magic into our screens, into our homes. And thank you all for joining us. Thanks very much, and good night.